America is failing because there is no option to corporate control. And corporations don't even do anything. They don't make food. They don't provide the health care. They don't create the housing. They sit in the middle of the people with the skills. They sit in the middle. They're just a bunch of corporate middlemen. The people in our community are the ones that create the value. The people in our community are the ones that do the hard work. But the corporations make all the money off of it. What? That pisses me off. If that pisses you off, let me get a me in the chat. Because goddamn, you know somebody that is a doctor, that is a construction worker, that is a farmer. That doctor, that construction worker, that farmer is the one doing the things that you need to live. They're growing your food. They're taking care of you. They're building your housing. But every single step along the way, that person gets screwed over so a corporation can make the money. Why is it that we're the ones that provide the value, but they take all the goddamn money? Well, they take all the money because they know if we don't have any money, it's this weird paradox. If we don't have any money, we can't push back. We can't. We're stuck. We talked about it earlier, right? If you don't have any money, you can't speak up. You can't take risks. You can't say no. So corporations know that if they keep us all without any money, we're not going to be able to stand up. We're not going to be able to say no. You know how I know that the majority of Americans can't say no? Could you quit your job tomorrow? Could you not go to work tomorrow and be okay? So if you can't go, if you can't even quit work tomorrow and you can't say no to a bad job, you can't say no to a boss that screws you over, well, then how free are you really if you can't even say no, right? How free are you really if when you go to the grocery store, you can't afford anything? How free are you if you can only buy rice and beans? I have 35 employees, two thumbs. And I understand. I started the business, but right now I don't create the value. That's the difference. My employees create the value. So I go to every single one of them and I say, this is what the business pays you because this is what you deserve. You need enough to live. Here's this fantastic wage and salary. And if you grow the business even more, you get half of it. We will split the profits because the business is only growing because you're doing the hard work too. I provided the vehicle, but you're the one driving it. So we don't get people to change, right? So right here with two thumbs, y'all, we don't care if two thumbs gets this or not. Not everybody is going to get this, right? They're used to horses and we're describing a car. This is what I'm saying. Until they see the car, they'll never understand it. Not because they like this system, but because for two thumbs, this system is all they've ever known. That looked like a 50, 60-year-old white dude. They're not going to change because we convince them to. They never will. That's one of the fallacies of what we're trying to do. We keep trying to convince people of something when they didn't get there by logic. They got there because that's what they were born into. That's all that they know. That's what their mammy and their pappy had, right? So they're arguing back, not from a place of like, oh, I genuinely want what's better for all of society. They think, no, no change, no change, no change. It needs to say the same. It needs to say the same. So they're not thinking about what's better for everyone. They're only thinking about what's better for them. My goddamn dad loves Walmart so much. And I'm never going to change that by arguing with him. You know what could change that, though, is if there was a local store that actually made and had employees smile at my father, that actually cared about them, that knew his name when he walked in. I bet you he would change a little bit, or at least think about changing. Maybe half of his purchases would go to the new store now. And that's really what it is. We're never going to beat these corporations by convincing people's minds. We beat them by making the corporations irrelevant, truly. If we want people to stop going to Walmart, we don't go and convince them to go to 50 other stores and make their life more difficult, right? What we do is we build something better. Systems don't change because you convince people to. Because you convince it to. System changes when a better options come along, right? People don't switch systems because of morals. People switch systems when it works, when a new one works better. But all the necessities that you're buying, Sue Lin, you're buying from corporations. That's what we're saying. No matter how hard you want to boycott, you still get your food from a corporation, mostly. You get your gasoline from a corporation. You get your transportation from a corporation. You pay your housing to a corporation. You pay your insurance to a corporation. Every time you pay your cable bill, it goes to a corporation. So EPOH, that's the next step. There are enough to a degree that get it. But then both you and Sue Lin are hitting on the same thing. Even though there are 100 million people that understand this, just like what Sue Lin is saying, where do we go? That's the problem. It's not that there's not enough people who don't get it to some degree. It's literally EPOH and Sue Lin, you just are perfect. Because that's the whole argument. Look in the comments. EPOH says there's enough of us who get it to some degree. We just have to work together to make something better. And then Sue Lin says, what can we do to buy necessities? Well, if there's no corporate alternative to necessities, that's a business idea. That's what this is. This is a small business revolution. Because the only way you change 50 million people's minds isn't by convincing them. It's by starting 1 million small businesses. And each of those million small businesses serve 50 customers. And they take care of those customers. And they show the customers, you don't have to buy everything from corporate. Isn't it better buying it from, you got Dave's Soaps, you got Mike's Eggs, you got Billy's Beer. That's what it is. That's what this is. And anybody telling you that it is one group, they've also been duped. Andrew Powers, you idiot. Anybody telling you it is one group has also been duped, because this has been happening for 50, 60, and 70 years. If you're able to see the through line, this didn't happen overnight. It wasn't one group of people. First, the ultra wealthy took over our economy. They figured out that if they worked as a team to defeat us, that a few corporations could come up top, right? That's all that happened, was corporations figured out that if they worked together, they could control what we need to live. That's all that happened. A group of people figured out that if they control our food, they control us. A group of people figured out that if they control our medicine, they control us. So that's where we need to understand that it's not that Americans aren't awake. It's that we don't have a better option right now. So that's what this group is about. It's about building that better option. Because corporations need millions of customers. The small businesses we're starting, you only need 20. You only need 40. You only need 50. And that's the thing, fellow, is I don't think that if we just keep asking people to make better options, they will. If we say that once you get 30 people, charge 25 cents, charge 50 cent coordination fee. You make $15 a week, and those 30 people are going to be excited to pay you 50 cents because they don't have to go to the grocery store to get their eggs, because they don't have to rely on the corporation for their frickin' broccoli anymore. You make it easy. You make it work. Loyalty beats that advertising every time, because when you're actually serving the community, they come back to you because you care about them. You care about their family. And that care creates loyalty. That's where small care beats scale. That's what it is. If we care about our customers, that will always beat being big. But fellow, exactly what you wrote, we need to make this menu. And then what it is we need to make the menu possible. That's what I want to talk about. That's how we need to do is we need to get somebody in charge of each menu item. So I want to take the food buying groups. So I'm going to take the food buying groups and really jump behind those. But we need somebody to take charge for each of the other options that you wrote for the menu. And then it's not mandatory, but then basically, as I view it as these menu options, how cool would it be if we had 10 different posters that not only, so the first page showed these are all the different ways you can push back. Then the next 8 images showed the infographic on food buying groups, an infographic on building power at your local city council, an infographic on reaching out to your letter to the editor and forming small groups for that. Because what we need to understand is we've got 2 different things happening. We've got what needs to happen now and what needs to be built for later. What I think so often is that people focus on what we're doing now because that's the easiest, because that's the simplest. But what we're doing now doesn't actually what we're doing for the now doesn't actually change anything long term. Because what we're doing now, it used to help change things long term because it put pressure on politicians, but that was back when politicians actually worked for people instead of for profit. So now that politicians work for profit instead of for people, the things that we try to do to fix it never work. This is for the people who are uncomfortable with this society right now. This is for the people who already try to shop local, who already care about their community. If you ever saw a corporate store and were like, dang, it's not that hard to do better. Man, if a grocery store just cared about their customers and employees, they would do so good. If a general store just cared about their customers and employees, they would do so much better. Costco. This is what we're talking about. Corporations win not because they're better, because they're bigger. If we start a million small businesses that actually care about your customers, that actually care about your community, that's how we fix this, not by protesting. It's by offering people alternatives. All you need is 10 or 15 people to start. Truly. Because think, you could call up a bunch of people, or if you took to a group and said, hey, the system sucks, let's leave the system. Well, not many people are going to do it. But if you said corporations don't care about you, but you get all your food from a corporation, we're putting together groups to buy our food right from the farmer. Would you be a part of that? Now, you're not convincing anybody, right? 2 people with completely different politics can both join this food buying group and buy one item locally and no longer have to depend on the system. You're not arguing with somebody. You're not convincing them. That's just changing their behavior. Like my dad, who loves his Walmart so much, I guarantee if I could get meat that was quality, that was at the same price as Walmart or near it, my dad would get the meat that was quality. Because being big and being efficient only does so much. Sometimes you want people to care. Sometimes you want something that's quality. If you feel that, type me in the chat, because they make it feel like we're so alone. They make us feel like this is the way life has to be too. God damn, that makes me mad, Josh. They make us feel like this is the way life has to be. And it's like people that went through it, people that went through something tough, it's like they want to uphold this system because they want the next generation to go through something tough. That makes no sense. Except for that's just the culture that's been defined, right? That's just the culture that's been defined. It doesn't really matter. But that's where we have to understand that the corporate culture, the corporate system doesn't work for us. So why are we keep staying with something that does not work for us? Why do we stay with a system that actively works against us? Because we have no other options. We're not stuck in America because we're all asleep. We're stuck because we have no other options than corporations. That's the biggest thing. They got rid of the free market. There used to be local pharmacies. There used to be local banks. Does anybody remember community banks? God damn. There used to be local newspapers, and every single person running that local bank, running that local newspaper, running that local grocery store, they might not have been as efficient. They might not have been as cheap, but they cared about you. They cared about you. And wouldn't it be nice to go to a business that cared about you, that knew your name? There you go, Sue Lin. We will always beat corporations. So the way that we do this is not by convincing 50 million people that corporations are bad. We fix this by building something better. We know the system is broken. We know the system does not work for us. It's never going to get fixed. It's going to get replaced. But we have to do the replacing. We're the ones that have to do it. We can't rely on corporations. It's not happening. We have to be the ones in charge. But they have made most of us not remember a time without corporations. So we literally feel like, oh, we have to invent something new. Oh, we have to do this. No, you just go back to what you used to do. That's it. We didn't switch from local markets to grocery stores because somebody convinced us. We didn't switch from horses to cars because somebody made a moral argument. You build something better. That's the only way. People switch when something works better for them, not when somebody convinces you to. Most Americans don't even have the emotional capacity to say, yeah, I was wrong. I thought through that incorrectly, and I'm going to change my mind now. So instead of arguing about something that people have grown up with and that they always have known, you don't convince someone by explaining why this new option is better. You have to show them the alternative. Because y'all, corporations suck. But none of us think that we can compete with corporations simply because they're so big, right? But what we have to understand is that corporations don't care about you. Not that guy. You think health insurance companies care about you? You think that corporation that's trying to pass off that health bar or that candy bar they're selling as healthy cares about you? SWC, the construction workers are my boys right there. Because look, you can tell who does the hard work on a construction site, right? It's not the guy sitting in the truck. It's not the guy making all the money. It's the people that are doing the hard work, framing the drywall, running the plumbing, doing the electrical, but they get shafted. It's the asshole in the truck that makes all the money, right? And so what it is that corporations are in control because they have it so that the majority of us don't see the problem. Well, that's fine, Bunny Guardian. I'm going to mute him now too. But what it is we cannot care about people that don't see this. This is literally what I'm saying. That's fine. That's where we know they're a bot. But what we got to do is, who cares that that person thinks a horse is better than a car? Honestly, you should feel bad for them. But the political system's never going to change because the politicians don't work for the people. The politicians work for corporations. So we need to figure out, how do we put pressure on corporations? Well, you put pressure on corporations by hitting them in their wallets, by hitting them where it hurts. But you can only do that is if you give people an alternative. Because right now, corporations know that we have no other option. Because they know we have no other option, they do not take care of us, right? And this is just about corporations. Corporations do not care about people. Corporations do not care about you. Politicians work for profit and not for people, and that's part of the issue. But what we're trying to do is we're not trying to get all these people to agree with us. They just need to see a better option. So all the people that don't understand, who can't see what this option is, it's no sense to waste our energy arguing with them when they will never understand why a car is better than a horse without seeing a car in action. It's not about waking up. That does not matter whatsoever. Because what we actually need to do, America is not failing because people aren't awake. Enough people are awake. America is failing because they don't have any other option. We see all the problems that is happening in our country, but we still have to go shop at the corporate grocery store because we don't have an alternative. We see all the problem in our healthcare industry, but we continue to pay our health insurance premiums because we don't have any other options. We continue buying cars and gasoline from corporations because we don't have any other options. And we continue paying our mortgage and our rent to corporations because we don't have any other options. A system doesn't get fixed because people ask it to. Systems change when a better option comes along. So we are going to build the better option, and it doesn't have to start big. One of the biggest issues that this happens is people try to replace a grocery store overnight, right? What non-corporate option do you have to buy your car from? What non-corporate option do you have to buy your gasoline from? What non-corporate option do you have to buy your healthcare insurance from? Everybody pays their mortgage and their rent to a big corporation. So, Sue Lynn, we've got them all. So we've got 4 or 5 different ones. We're starting with the local food producer. Right after that, we're showing people how to start an online consignment shop, buy used from each other. Little Love Rogers, this is my favorite thing. We have one in my city. There is a group of 5 or 6 people that tells everyone, hey, give us your stuff. We'll pay you money for your old shit. We'll pay you money because we're going to sell it online. Give us your old stuff. We'll pay you money. Then they have this online marketplace where dirt cheap clothes, toys, household items. But what they do is they have centralized meeting spots. Because, you know, one of the worst things is if you're buying stuff online, you got to go to 5 or 6 different people's houses if you need 5 or 6 different things. What this figures out, what this solves is that, hey, we're in one central meeting, one time a week. We're reputable. We'll hold the product for you. Basically, we make online marketplace shopping simpler and easier for the person buying it and for the people selling it. We already have a local food producer. That is one of the roles that we are calling it. And we show you exactly how to start coordinating local food orders. You can make money off of this. You get 50 people, tack on a 50 cents coordination fee. You're very upfront about it because they're willing to pay for your customer service. So you can change this. And then when you're doing that, Sue Lynn, you're not sitting there and arguing with somebody. Hey, you should drop out of this system because it's going to be better. No, 2 people with completely different politics can both buy something from that local seller. You've convinced both of them to drop out of the corporate system. But there's been no argument, no convincing. You just offered a better alternative. I have 5 people already in my area. I got 2 of my friends, my in-laws, and a neighbor. Add us to it. We got 5 people. That's 5 dozen eggs a week. It took me 15 minutes to send out those 4 text messages. Hey, if we set up local eggs, would you buy it once a week? We'll make the pickup easy. That's it. We've got the whole graphics on how to do this. So They use their scale against us. We look at a grocery store, we look at the economy and think there's no way we could replace that. How could we give an alternative to that? Especially not fast enough with everything that's going on. And it's really that feeling is what keeps us frozen. Marianne, I'm in Maryland. So we look at the scale of the problem and we freeze, right? Trying to bite off more than we can chew is one of the biggest reasons these things fail. But small groups are actually better because you don't need 100 people or 1,000 people to start. Sulin, we're already building the group. You've already got a base of people, my friend. Let me pull up the link for you. I'm sorry I didn't have it ready. So this is so Little Love Rogers. Not many people have the option to buy from local farms, and you can save money from that local farm if you can get 50 other people, right? Get 50 other people. And then you go to the farmer and say, hey, I want to buy 500 eggs a week. What could you sell me 500 eggs a week for? And then maybe they sell it to you for what they sell it to corporations for. Maybe they'll sell it to you for $3 a dozen. And then maybe you can tell people, hey, I've got eggs for $3.50. The farmer sells them to me for $3, and we tack on a small 50-cent coordination fee. Boom, you're making yourself $25 a week right there. You're getting people to no longer rely on corporations. You're fixing our society, and you're making some money. This needs to be a small business revolution. It's how it will happen. 1 million small businesses serving 50 people that no longer step out. Yes, you are right, Bunny Garden. I am sorry that I did not see that lane. But that's where Jammerific, you don't have to offer money. I want to give that incentive to some people so they see, oh, it doesn't have to be all charity. This isn't just activism. This can be a small business. You probably want to start it so that the first 20, 30 people, hey, I'm going to try to get this idea together. We might do this. But Casey, that's the idea, right? If the person's smart, say you get 75 people all buying 10 eggs a week. That's 750 eggs a week that you're buying from the farmer. Now, say you're like, oh, shit, I can get 20 eggs. I can get, I don't know how many eggs that would be a week, but I can get 20 chickens. I don't want to give some of this money to the farmer. What if I start selling these eggs? Boom, you've made your business a little more profitable. And you're still looking out for your customers because you know what sets you apart is the fact that you care deeply. Trust me, I have a business. I'm kicking myself that the way that I run my business is the way that we can fix things. But this is how I do it. We compete with large companies. But what I know is that we care more than every single one. We smile when they walk in. We send text messages to our customers. We are their friend. Because we actually care about them as humans. Because why wouldn't we? They live in our community. They shop at the same places we shop. Their kids go to the same schools we go to. So we care about them. And that's where we will always beat corporations. We're not going to be bigger, but we can always be better because we know Sue's name, because we know Jam's name, because we know Casey's name, and we care about them because they're part of our community. So, Bunny, food is just the easiest place to start. So obviously you are able to do vegetables and different things like that. But really the other one would be the online consignment store. You get people's used things, used kids' clothes, used toys, used furniture. You tell them, hey, rather than you taking all the time and energy for selling this for $20, going through all the bullshit, meeting up with somebody, let me sell it for you. And basically we'll split the profits. We'll split what we sell it for. So right now we got 5 different online consignments in the Maryland area. And what they do is they tell all the people that's selling stuff online, hey, you're selling 50 different things. You might have to meet with 50 different people. What if you give us that box of clothes, that box of items, and we'll sell it for you? It's not about protesting. It's not about raising awareness. It's about building something real. It's about recruiting people for making something better. Bunny, you're so right. I'm right there with you. But that's where I honestly feel the same way about that as I do the majority of it. Like, I almost am frustrated at my parents for not setting us off on a better habit, and then it's difficult because the majority of people. But that's exactly. But little love, it's not about you doing it. It's about teaching other people to do it. Because just one of us doing it doesn't matter. We need to have a million of us serving our communities that way. Because that's really what this is about, is you taking your knowledge and spreading it to others. Because it has to be shown. We have to give people hope that you can do this, that we can fix this. Where I love the idea of taking furniture, of fixing it up, of reselling old clothes. Things people need to live. All corporations have done. No, not at all. I'm a small business owner, but we're not in capitalism because capitalism requires competition. Right now, over 85% of corporations on the S&P 500 have the same three top shareholders: Vanguard, BlackRock, and State Street. Capitalism literally requires super amounts of competition. Like, there should be 10 general stores that are all local in every town surrounding every Walmart, because then Walmart would have to do better. There should be 10 grocery stores in every 10 local grocery stores in every single locality, because competition is what provides better services and better salaries. Because it's only when you can walk out of that corporate option and go buy the product somewhere else. Jams, it doesn't matter. That's where, if people that directly go into theory over practicality, you sort of know that they're not here to actually, debate, or they just want to get you. Because if you lead with ideology over practicality, you're not caring you don't care if people listen to you. You just want to be right. Honestly. Because what you're doing is you're saying, define yourself, label yourself, do this, do that. And it's just like, man, you just walked into our space. You walked into somebody else's living room and you're going to act like that. It's pretty funny. So what people don't understand is the language that we use surrounding this is just as important as the mechanisms we put in place, right? Because the ultra wealthy figured out, the better system, the things that work for people, if we make them afraid of the things that work for them, then when people come along and try to define this new system they're building, we can make people have a visceral reaction just to the words they are using. So let's make sure that if anybody says this word, that instantly discredits them. Let's make sure if anybody says this word, we all push back against them. Let's make it so that the things that work for people scare them. That's how we got in this mess. America, the American flag always meant working class power. We had unions that literally fought with corporations to give us the weekend, to get rid of child employment, child labor. I don't know why that word fell. But then over the last 60 or 70 years, they've turned people against unions. They've turned people against their own community. You say like, the community should be in charge. People are like, what? Do you hate capitalism? Oh, no, you're good. Jan, you didn't. But that's where things went wrong. Corporations used to serve the communities. They used to serve them. Well, Sue Lin, they did lie to us. So we're at the exact same part, right? So the corporations used to serve us. And honestly, for 20 or 30 years, the corporations did serve us, right? From 1960 to the 1980s, corporations acted like a part of the community. because corporations understood that the health of the community, that the health of the business relied on the health of the community. Bunny Guardian, I think it used to be that we had what would be called community capitalism or shareholder capitalism or stakeholder capitalism, meaning that corporations used to understand that they can only get so big, so they have to rely on the community that they're tied to. So that's all that happened, was that corporations cared about their community, not necessarily because they were good people, but because they knew that caring about their community was the best option for their business. Now, corporations, I believe that it kind of worked out that the person that started that corporation sold their corporation. Now the corporations are not owned by people who grew up in that community. The corporations are now owned by people who love money. God, I hate money lovers. I hate them. Money is not the point of life. Money gives you access to resources that you can use to make your family and your community and your friends happier. And when you have a happy family, community, and friends, that's when life is good. That's all it is. So all that's happened is that corporations used to be controlled by people that cared about their community. I literally got successful in my business, and my brain started hurting because I'm like, what the fuck? I'm successful because I care about my community. How can other corporations just simply not care at all? Oh, because they are money-loving assholes that are only took the job to try to make more money because they are so morally devoid. Because what did Trump say? God, I hate him. Where he said, money isn't everything, but it sure is a good way to keep score. That's what these people think. All they're doing is keeping score. They're trying to get the next highest level on the game to impress all their friends. That's why they look at it. They look at us with such callous hearts and callous nature. Because money to them isn't the same thing to us. Money to us is mother effing resources. Money to us is the way we live. It's housing, it's food, it's healthcare. Money to them is a high score. It's a way that they can compare themselves to their friends. So how else would they know that they're better? Because their definition of a human being good or bad is whether they have money or not. And that's the culture that we're in. So many people see that culture and just roll with it and just go with it because that's all they've ever known. But I think most of us can feel and see that this isn't the way that life needs to be. This is not the way that life needs to be. Life is not just so a few of us can work really hard, so that all of us can work really hard, so that 1% of us gets rich. I've made this analogy before and I'll do it again. Imagine America as 10 people that made 10 slices of bread. Well, the 1%, just one person, would take 5 slices. So one person is taking 5 slices of bread. And the other 9 people only have 5 left. And then I think, Jams, what you're saying is that one person took 5 slices and they justified it to the other 9 by saying, God gave me this money. I worked harder. And then that all comes back to Calvinism, early Christianity. Hey, if you work harder, you're more likely to get into heaven. Wouldn't you love to be the king that made that up? If you work harder. Oh, y'all, I just heard a new decree from God. If you work harder, you're more likely to get into heaven. If you work harder for me, right, you're more likely to get into heaven. And then what America did is America took that idea, is that if you work hard, you get into heaven. Well, we said, well, if you work hard, you make money. Oh, so if you make money, you must have worked hard. Work hard, good person. Work hard, make money. Oh, if you have money, that means you're a good person. And if you're a good person, you're more likely to get into heaven. So that was how we took a 500-year-old lie by some king that said, if you work hard, you're more likely to get into heaven. And that's how it's become, oh, millionaires and billionaires, if you have money, you're automatically good people. No. So we've got the Discord that you can join. We've already put up the post on the local food distributor that is on our page.